Can sound heal us? That is a big question, and one I'm particularly interested in since I hear very little these days, having lost a bunch of my hearing. But can sound heal us? My guest today is Jeralyn Glass, and she was a guest of mine about 2 years ago, and I'm very excited to have her back. She's one of only two guests that actually got me to cry on air during my podcast. And it had to do with sound and healing. I don't know exactly where that came from, but I know it did happen, and I definitely felt better. So today, please welcome Jeralyn Glass. She's the founder of Crystal Cadence. She's an author, she's an entrepreneur, and she is an energy healer. Thank you.
Oh, Diane, that touches my heart so much because there's so many feelings and emotions and things we hold inside that music just helps to release them. And nothing else can in that kind of way. So that touches me very deeply.
And it's funny when I think of music being therapeutic, I know if I take a drive in my car alone, I've got the radio flipping to my favorite songs. I'm singing at the top of my lungs, off key, because I don't have a great voice, but I feel therapeutically changed on some level. But the sounds that you generate are on another level, literally and figuratively.
I like to think of, I've been a musician, professional musician all my professional life since I'm 19. And I've experienced so many times for myself, like what you just said. And it's not about, am I singing in the key or whatever. It's just about that you use your own voice, you're your own human instrument. And that just helps to move energy. It helps to move feelings. And that is so important for all of us, whether it's or whether it's singing along to our favorite song. It's important.
I'm wondering if maybe we could start with a minute or two so everyone knows the kind of music and sounds and healing that we're talking about, which I've had the incredible experience of experiencing. And then we can go back into this interview and talk more about what you're doing and why it works.
You got it. So these are Crystal Alchemy singing bowls. They are modern instruments. They're about 25 years old. So many of you may have seen or listened to the Tibetan or Himalayan singing bowls that are metal. These are made of pure quartz. So it's a whole different experience. So without much more talking, let's just listen. So that was just a little intro into the power of intentional sound. And what you heard was in music, a C major scale, and all different kinds of alchemies. So the bowls are pure quartz and they get infused with alchemy. So things such as gold, so precious metals, or earth substances such as salt, or precious gemstones such as ruby or emerald or amethyst. And as quartz is an amplifier and a transmitter and a receiver, the pure quartz is amplifying those gemstones, minerals, earth substances, or metals. And so the body experiences the sound in a whole different way. And there's so much to say about it, Diane, and your beautiful audience. But that's just the little intro for those of you who have never heard the Crystal Alchemy singing bowls.
It's such a remarkable sound. And we're doing this over the internet, and I am feeling it through my entire being. You know, I feel it in my body. I feel it in my brain. I feel it in my whole head. It's like it encompasses in the most fascinating way.
You know, when I first heard the bowls 19 years ago, I was living in Europe. I was having a full career as a classical singer and professor. And when I first heard them, I was like, I'd never heard sounds quite like that. And yet there was something in my being that knew I knew those sounds. Like they were very comfortable for me, very comforting, and something that my system knew. And I think that has to do with that they're quartz. Again, in our bones and our blood has a quartz-like structure. So there's something about a quartz sound that the body can receive very easily. And that's the whole thing that blew my mind 19 years ago. And since then, I've worked with my own grief. I've worked with cancer patients, hospice patients, Parkinson's, dementia, children, like veterans. Every demographic feels the sound like you just described because it's music. And every human being understands music. That's the universal language.
Now, are there different, like you have different tones? You know, each of the different glasses has a different tone, I'm hearing.
Yes.
What do they represent something different?
Yes, I always get so excited and smiley because, yeah, there's a whole, being a musician, I get really nerdy about what is it that's the structure of music, you know. So for example, if you look at the keyboard, right? So there's black and white notes on the piano. And what I just played for you on the bowls was this. Right? So that's what I said was a C major scale, but we can also play these notes. And that's a pentatonic scale, and we can mix them. So for me, as a musician, the bowls are an instrument. It's something that I can make music with. I work with a number of contemporary singers and classical singers, and where you can put the bowls in your music. You can score them with all kinds of instruments. They are an instrument. So yes, it's like, it blew my mind. Like one of the first things I recorded was an opera aria, and we used strings and we put the bowls in there. So, and then there's contemporary pieces like from Janae Aiko, the Triggered Protection Mantra, that's just 3 bowls. So they adapt to any style. I've played them for children in Tonga, and, you know, and the kids, they didn't understand English, but there we were, you know, playing bowls and making sounds together. And they go anywhere, Diane. It's music.
It's remarkable that the tones and the layering of them.
Yeah.
And as you layer them, how beautifully they blend.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my thing, because being a musician, because the bowls, as you hear, like they have all these series of overtones. So sometimes they can clash. And for me, in working with sound and music as a healing modality, it's really important that they're coherent. So it's really important that you don't hear don, do, 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 da. It's important that it's not dissonant, because I feel like when we're going through whatever it is we're going through, and whether we're aware of it or not, when music, like what you were describing in the car, like when music just touches you where it touches you, it's coherent, right? And I don't believe in making a lot of dissonant sounds to try to shake us up. I believe rather in creating a safe container where you hear something and you feel like what you described, or you feel this release when you're singing along with songs you love, because that helps to tune our human instrument. And I've asked myself in the last bit of time, like with all the stuff going on around us and just the things that we carry from our childhood. How do we tune ourselves? For the piano tuner comes, or if you are playing the guitar or stringed instrument, you can use a tuner. But nobody teaches us how to tune our own human instrument, and we are an instrument.
Okay, we're going to have to explore how to tune ourselves. But before we go there, it's so funny because you use the word dissonance and that you don't want that. And I'll never forget back when I first moved to New York in the very early 80s, I went to go see a Robert Fripp concert. And I remember he played the song Cognitive Dissonance, which made me want to research what that phrase meant, which I had never heard, this psychological term. But also, the song was like this all over the place song. And it was a great song. It is a great song. But it's interesting when I think of that and juxtapose it to the flow of what you're doing with this. Now, how do we tune our bodies? What frequency are we tuned to?
Okay. Let me show you something else. So this we could consider dissonant, right? That doesn't make you feel like this does, right? So if I play this and I play something dissonant, I want it to resolve. Right? But if I just would sit on that dissonance, I know myself, I wouldn't feel safe or comfortable. I have to look up the cognitive dissonance. I don't know that piece.
That's a great example. Yeah, the piece of music, it's really catchy, but it's all over the place. You're like,
right. And I feel like, okay, so I started really using this kind of crystalline music as a healing modality. It's 11 years ago now when I lost my son, right? So I'm in grief as a parent, and there's no pill for that, right, Diane? There's no meds that can really heal that. And it was like, okay, what do I do? So, and as you posed the question, how do I tune myself? And it's little things, you're waiting on hold and it's taking 45 minutes and you're waiting to speak to a representative and you're just like, rah. It can be so many silly little things or really big things. But when we get out of tune, what do we do? When we're frustrated, when we're angry, when we're in pain, what do we do? So I've learned that sound and music can really be something, again, like you described, singing out loud, just going and singing your favorite song or putting on another song that you love and dancing to it and just moving your body so that energy is moving. And a beautiful, simple thing that everyone can do is just hum.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we can just use our own voice. And one thing I love to do, like this, I recommend for everyone, when you're under the shower, to just hum from your low voice up in your high voice, something like, So just using your own instrument, because if you think about how do I tune myself, I got to do it somehow from the inside out. I can't do it from the outside in. And from the inside is you making your own unique vibrations. So that's...
Does everyone have a different vibration?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I like to think of everybody as their own unique instrument, just like we each have our own fingerprint, right? And so people can mimic other people really well, great comedians and such, but each of us is given our own unique timbre, our own unique signature. And I think that's what's so incredible about being human. And then, who do we align with? Who can we harmonize with? Who do we not harmonize with? And how do we create unity? How do we create this sense of we're playing in a band together or we're playing in an orchestra together?
That's an interesting point. How do we harmonize together? And how we each do have our unique voice. Because if you think about it, if I close my eyes, I heard pretty much anyone's voice that I know, that I've had maybe more than one conversation with, unless they had a really outstanding voice. and I would know exactly whose voice it was.
Yeah.
It is such a signature.
Yeah. It's a gift. And I remember when I started my career on Broadway, and one of my dear friends, we went first on tour, a national tour across the United States, and then we came back and played in New York. And I remember one of my friends gave me this quote from Martha Graham to Agnes DeMille, two incredible pioneers in the field of dance. And it was like, you know, there is a vitality, a life force, a quickening in you, and there's one of you in all of time. And I find that that's so true. And she encouraged, you know, each of us tuning in and allowing ourselves to quicken and to really recognize I am a unique instrument. And my responsibility is to express that, to develop it, to free it, and then really to be it, to express it, to live it. There's one of you.
You know, I always remind the audience that gathers for these blogs and podcasts that you are a one of a kind. You're never going to be another. But you added a very interesting phrase to that. You're a one of a kind in all of time.
No. I get goosebumps when you say that.
Wow. That kind of takes it to the next level. You know, it's not just you're one of a kind, there's never going to be another, but it's in all of time. That's wow.
And she talks about if we block that, if we say it's not good enough and we question it, which we all do and doubt it, you know, at certain times, if we block it, it will never appear ever again.
Yeah.
And sort of like that bigness of like, okay, let's love this instrument. Let's work to free it and express it. It's a whole nother way of looking at you, you know, and I look at you and I say, like, are you the flute? Are you the violin? You know, am I the cello now? And does that change? Like, who are we as instruments?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so interesting where you use the word expression, because I'm a big believer that, you know, I'm sure you can relate to this. You know, you can have hell on earth or you can have heaven on earth. I don't need to die to find out which one exists and whether they do. And a lot of it has to do with expression. And I like to remind people, you have a responsibility to learn who you are. That's your gift from God, you know, the universe, whatever you want to believe in. I believe, I don't mind using the word God, that you were given this uniqueness of expression, you know, so be responsible with it, use it, which is what you're doing with this music. You're finding a way to express and help people express in such a fascinating way.
It is. I mean, it is.
Tell me how, like, when one day you heard somebody play something and what happened? Like, give me a little color on this.
Like how I got into it?
Yeah.
So I was living in Germany at the time, enjoying a beautiful career in music, and came home to the US and traveled with my mom. And we saw somebody was giving a demonstration of crystal singing bowls. And at that time, I had the Himalayan singing bowls, and like I would use them before performances. I would put one, I had two of them. I would put one on my belly, and then I would just and then I would do my exercises, etc. So I loved the idea of this kind of meditative instrument. I mean, that's how I felt. And there was something in that metal bowl that had all these overtones that was just beautiful. And so we went and saw the lecture, and I was like, Mom, I have to get some of these instruments. And I did. And I got 7 of them, and I took them back to Germany. And that's how it all started 19 years ago.
You know, it's so funny because years ago, I was walking through like a fair in some country, little town, and somebody was playing the hammered dulcimer. Well, my husband said, you know, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I want a hammered dulcimer. So he finds the guy who like makes these hammered dulcimers, one of the best in the country. And I'm cognitive dissonance when I play that thing, and it's out of key. So try to keep it in key is a whole other issue. But do these bowls go out of tune?
No. So that is well, I shouldn't say that. Absolutely. There have been times when, depending what's going on, remember quartz being an amplifier, receiver, transmitter, when there's a lot of dissonance in the room, they play odd. And then as the more I play and the room gets tuned, the bowl plays back in tune. I mean, it's pretty amazing that does happen. But when they're created, they are a C, let's say a C note at 432 hertz tuning, or they're a C note at 440 hertz tuning. So you can't really change them, but they are living instruments. And I mean, you know, as a professional classical musician, I'm like, okay,
that's wild.
It does get wild. It really does get wild. And you can't plan that stuff, Diane. It either happens or it doesn't happen.
Uh-huh. How are these made?
You mean like how
do they make, you know, each of these different instruments you have?
Well, they started in the 80s in Silicon Valley, and they started as crucibles, pure white quartz, heavy quartz crucibles to fire computer chips, because quartz can be fired at high temperatures. So that's how they started. And I'm sure many of you have seen the big white frosted bowls. And then the Alchemy bowls were developed in about the year 2000. And it's a proprietary process, so I don't know exactly how they're made, but think of like a quartz crucible, and then they're fired at high temperatures, and the gold or the ruby, the powdered ruby, or whatever it is, the charcoal or salt, they're added in the process of making them. So the alchemies get added and then fired at high temperatures.
And what do you call these bowls?
Crystal Alchemy singing bowls.
Crystal Alchemy singing bowls.
And these ones are made by Crystal Tones, which is a company in Utah.
Mm-hmm. But how do you decide what you're going to put out and play? If you were playing for a crowd of people, how do you pick your instruments?
That is such the fun part of doing it. So there's about 600 bowls in my studio here in Los Angeles. And so I feel so honored that I get to say, okay, today I'm playing for a group of cancer patients. I'm going to definitely take an element that has heart in it. So let's say I'll take a rose quartz, or I'll say I'm going to play that pentatonic scale, or I'm going to work in the musical key of F, which in terms of the chakra system is the key of the heart. Or perhaps I'll work with a very grounding element. So let's say, for example, if I'm working with veterans that are really suffering from PTSD, then I'll take a low note, like the first bowl that I played. I'll take a very low note that can be very grounding for them. Maybe I take an alchemy such as charcoal, because charcoal or salt is very detoxifying, cleansing, helping you to release. And then I create a spoken meditation that is about that theme. So many years ago, we started a YouTube channel, and there's like over 200 free meditations on there, because I wanted people to be able to experience it, and then to also see like every single bowl set is different. And it's like, you know, there's no one size fits all. So today you want to hear, you know, a rap song. Tomorrow you want to hear Beethoven. The next day you want to hear the Pointer Sisters. Like, it's as varied as our tastes in music. I mean, obviously it's a more, you know, you hear the general feel of what they sound like, but I can play you in any key, in any scale. That's the fun part of it, is I look at this whole world as music medicine, and being a musician, I can play with it that way.
Now, music medicine, what does that mean to you?
It means to me that, for me personally, when I was sitting in that grief and 3 medical doctors said, let's put you on an antidepressant. And I knew, Diane, that wasn't going to be my way, because I knew if they gave me an antidepressant, as far as I understood it, I wouldn't be able to feel. It would help me just like calm down. And I knew that if I couldn't feel what was happening for me, I could probably never heal it. Right. Mm-hmm. So music as a medicine means to me that music will help to soothe us. Music helps to reduce the production of cortisol. You know, we all get into fight or flight and we get a lot of anxiety, and music has a way of calming us down, and it's not a pill with side effects. And I've seen it over the years in so many situations, also from a hospice situation where someone is leaving the planet and there's still so much going on that they need to let go of and come to peace with. And yet, as you said, you can make heaven on earth, and I'm helping them with sound to experience that heaven is approaching, and here is a pathway with music. So, and I think about one child that I worked with, that the mother said, the child was 8, that she had terrible anxiety in school. We played the bowls together. I taught her how to play, and then she laid down and I gave her meditation. And afterwards she said, I was like floating in this field, like this beautiful field, and I was floating above, and she used the words as an 8-year-old. She said, I had no more anxiety. And it's like, our words are so powerful. Once we say, I have this or I have that, it lands in our body in a certain way. And sound has the ability to go into those places and just gently, tenderly open them and move them. That's been my experience over all these years now. There's so many stories I could tell you about that.
I bet. And you've been writing about it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So what's your book?
So I wrote this book, Sacred Vibrations. And in it, we made some things called Music RX, Sound RX. So just all different kinds of stories about working with cancer patients, working with kids, working with Parkinson's. And then it's just the story about the bowls and what makes them unique, the history of sound. And then I have scientists and a medical doctor and musicians. Genevieve Harrison is in the book. She just was nominated for a Grammy. Victor Wooten is a 5-time Grammy Award-winning bass player. I try to bring, what is it for each of us that creates sacred sound or sacred vibrations that gives us the possibility to transform, gives us the possibility to open our lives, like we were talking about earlier, to really be your true authentic expression. So there's lots and lots in the book. And I loved writing it. And then there are stories about the communication with my son from the other side through sound and music, and that love is eternal, that we don't have to fear death because love is eternal. So that's another theme that runs through it.
Love is eternal.
Yeah.
When you go into a hospital setting, what's the receptivity like?
Oh my goodness. People want more.
They say, here comes the healer, or here comes the crazy woman.
No, no. And there's more and more medical doctors, Diane, that are really, I had a discussion, there's a little bit from him in the book of a well-known hospice doctor. And he just said, Jeralyn, there's so many things in medicine that we don't know the answer, and we don't understand. And, my experience being a musician from a very young age is that music crosses that bridge that you meant. Music creates that bridge. Music takes us in the place of the ineffable. There's no words there. And suddenly you're breathing and you're feeling and you're having goosebumps and you're laughing and you're in joy, or you're crying and something's releasing. And it's like, thank you, God. Like it's a miracle pill. And again, there's no side effects from it.
Exactly.
So no, I play in hospitals, and a number of my students are nurses or medical doctors, and they're using them with their patients, psychologists, psychiatrists using them with their patients, because as you heard in that little brief example, the sound, you kind of go, oh, what's that? Yeah. And like you said, and you get really still, your mind gets really still, and then it goes, oh, that's music. But in the moment that your mind is trying to focus on these crystalline sounds, it's still, and you're able to drop deeper into like a meditative state. Yeah. So for many people who can't sit still and meditate, the sound is an incredible way to come in there.
It's very interesting, that impact.
Yeah. Because, we're so... everything, and it's scrolling, and just the world is so different. It's so different now. I was just laughing yesterday in Los Angeles. We saw the Waymo cars, so there's a robotic car, and it's just like, okay, and this is the Flintstones, or however you want to say it, or the Jetsons. I mean, the Jetsons, like now, right? And how do we live a healthy, whole, harmonic life? How do we do that when the world is moving so fast? Music. I don't know, to integrate music for all of us.
Tune into Jeralyn.
That's what I feel, to really answer your question, is music medicine, because it has been proven that it creates dopamine. It helps bring more oxygen to your cells. It reduces the production of cortisol. It helps bring more leukocytes, which help with the immune system. And, is there woo to it, Diane? Yes, there is. Is there science to it and theory? Yes, there is. And how do we cross that bridge? It's so personal for each person.
Well, having worked in all aspects of alternative medicine for over 40 years and traditional pharmaceutical medicine for 30 of those, I tell you this, the biggest reason a clinical trial will fail, or the biggest outlier, I won't call it, the biggest outlier, is the placebo effect. Now, what is the placebo effect? It's inexplicable. It's why did the people who didn't get the drug have a better reaction than the people who did get it? Not just that they stayed neutral, not that they got worse, they got better. So whether it's belief, that's a real scientific thing that gets studied, and nobody understands why it happened. They know it does. And when you think about music, and I think about my emotions that swell up, and I can feel my throat like tightening a little, and I'm getting choked up here in a good way. Am I going to start to cry as you play? That's therapeutic. I don't care. It doesn't need that thumb stamp from anybody to say it's not, because if you experience it, you experience it. And I'm all about perception, and what you experience, if it's your experience, it's your experience.
Yeah. And there's so many statistics. I write a little bit about it in the book too. There's so many statistics of, it's $1 billion industry, the using medication, et cetera. But it's only helping X% of the people, X% of the time. And so much of our health and well-being it also begins here. So if you say, hey, I can't meditate because I can't sit still or whatever, but suddenly, which is why, like, for example, on our YouTube channel, Crystal Cadence, I created 3 2-hour loops, and they're different orchestras. So they're different sets of bowls, different tunings, different notes. And they're made for people to just listen, to just be able to fall asleep to it, cook, exercise, whatever, but to have this kind of beautiful sounds going in the background that help to quiet your mind and calm your nervous system.
Well, it's interesting that you just used that as an example, because, personally, I remember taking TM and thinking, okay, this is cool. But what I loved more was when I started to go to people back in the late 80s, and then I learned hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And I found, for me, the addition of words, even though they're droning you, basically, it's a form of droning someone into a direction that's beneficial for them, because you're only using beneficial words, but it's a lot of droning. But that element of the sound made all the difference for me, how quick something happened, how better I felt, how responsive I was in the moment, whether it took 20 minutes or whether 5 minutes later, I'm like, woohoo, I'm feeling good. So this addition of the sounds you're making is like next level.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I hope this is okay to ask you. I remember when I was 10 in the 5th grade, and my friend's mother told me about this book, The Search for Bridie Murphy. Do you know that?
No.
Oh my gosh.
For Friday Murphy?
Bridie Murphy. She was
Bridie or Friday?
Bridie.
Friday, the day of the week?
No, Bridie. She was an Irish gal, and she worked with a hypnotist, and he took her back beyond this lifetime, and she remembered that she had a lifetime in. So, and I don't know why, when you just said that, it's like when you quiet the mind and do what you were just, what you're an expert in, it also builds the bridge. And so again, I don't know. I love this idea that music and sound and meditation can take us beyond this that we see, right? And that's what I love about the bowls. They create this space. And again, depending what notes, what tuning, what combination of music that I'm playing in, but they have the ability to take us beyond this thinking mind.
Well, it's interesting, that book, now that I heard it correctly, I was missing it because I don't hear well. I do know the book, and I do not ever do regression therapy with anyone because of the words and because of suggestion. Whereas if I knew someone really felt like they had something lingering that they wanted to work on, I would never try to take them back to that moment. I think that's kind of irresponsible unless it's in trying to solve a crime, because people make stuff up,
right?
In the moment when they're relaxed. Imagination is alive and well. But I can genuinely imagine incredible healing of traumatic issues through sound. It's kind of like through you. I'm going, thank you to you. I'm looking forward to interviewing Dr. Sue Morter. And one of my most incredible experiences was at one point, someone suggested years ago, could be 25, 30 years ago, suggested that I go see a Morter chiropractor.
Right.
Where they believe, the whole belief of that you're holding something in you and that's why you're having that pain or whatever. And I was having trouble standing. My knees were just giving out. It was very bizarre. And he was like, okay, don't tell me what you're thinking, but I want you to think about a moment you want forgiveness for, or a moment you want to, you wish you could have done something differently. You don't have to say anything. Well, he's doing something to me and I'm bawling, but I walked out of there and I never had a problem after that. So.
Yeah. You mentioned Dr. Sue Morter. And you mentioned the chiropractor. So I'm just going to show you. So this is that is Dr. Sue 11 years ago. And she's holding a picture of my son, this picture. Up on the top of Machu Picchu, and the beam of light is unmistakable, right? So it's like there's so many ways. Again, back to your question about what is music medicine, there are so many ways to find what you just described with your knee. You were holding some kind of tension, belief, and how it's called the BEST technique, the bioenergetic synchronization technique, how that helps to work to just quiet the mind and then release patterns that we hold, memories that are trapped. Like it's energy and it's a medicine. It's music and it's a medicine. Because how else would you have done that with your knee? Would you have gotten injections? Would you have had a knee surgery? It's like, I would love to keep exploring this field of energy medicine and sound medicine.
It's really something that completely fascinates me because, like hypnosis is just, people think I'm probably on some alternative planet when I bring it up because they've seen all these Hollywood versions of it that I'm like, oh my gosh, you just don't get it. It's just tapping into parts of your mind that just want you to live better, more comfortably, more in the moment, more healthy. That's all it is to me. And, but Hollywood makes it, you're going to act like a chicken or somebody's going to stir a teaspoon and you're going to go, lose yourself. It's so nuts. And it's a shame because there's so many good things that come from these areas. If people are open to them, like, why should we think we can explain things when they call it the practice of medicine? obviously there's a lot of gaps there if they're still practicing.
Right. I remember as a young singer, my teacher, who is 103 today.
Oh, happy birthday.
I mean, not today, but I mean today.
Yes.
But
Whatever, it still deserves a cheer.
Yes, definitely. She sent me to a hypnotherapist, and she sent me to learn how to memorize. So I understood that at that point in time as being able to quiet the mind and come into a really pure focus. And then I was able, we practiced memory skills. So how could I memorize song lyrics? How could I memorize words? Right. And it was so effective. I mean, that served me my whole life. And it wasn't woo-woo or anything like that to me. It was just a way to work with stilling the mind. Again, because our minds are so active and they can often take us in the wrong direction.
Yeah. You used the phrase before, you just want to learn every aspect of healing through music. I'm paraphrasing. Where do you keep taking this to, Jeralyn? What's next on the horizon? How do you keep exploring this deeper?
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of things that people can get involved with, so we created an app. Thank you for asking. The app is called Source, Be Inspired. And Dr. Sue is also on the app, but there's 20 different visualizers, we call them. But the idea was I wanted to create a platform where science and music and medicine and spirituality all intersect. And how does that affect you? And how does it affect me? And it's going to be different for everybody. But we have Dr. Daniel Levitin, who is a well-known neuroscientist, Victor Wooten, who I mentioned earlier, 5-time Grammy Award-winning bass player, like Jonathan Goldman, who's a pioneer in the field of sound. Like, where do we intersect? Because it's so easy, Diane, to find where we disagree and to find our differences and our judgments, instead of this field. It has so many possibilities in it. So I've brought together these 20 people, and there's also something for children on there. So people that want to have meditations for their children. And that's a platform, again, to find where science, spirituality, and the healing power of music come together, and how do I integrate that in my own life. And then at the same time, we've been working on a documentary film, so I'm super, super excited about that. That's going to be coming out this year. I'll keep you posted. But we also have an NBA athlete in there that is actually from the Brooklyn Nets, Daron Char. And so we wanted to bring sports in there and find out, like, how do professional athletes use music? Because they do, and Daron shares about, what he uses to hype himself up, to get himself going before a game, and then also for deep relaxation for his legs, etc. So how does all this work for everyday people, for sports, for music? Also on the app is Janae Aiko, who I mentioned earlier, who has been integrating the crystal singing bowls into her R&B music. So that's been really interesting. It's a modality that affects every human being, no matter what language you speak, no matter what culture you come from, no matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter. Music is that universal connector. So those are the two big things now: the app Source, Be Inspired, and the music documentary that we're just in the process of finishing now.
Oh my gosh. The time always goes too fast, particularly with you, Jeralyn. I mean, oh my gosh, I could keep talking to you for another 2 hours. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for all you do, Diane.
Thank you.
Very inspiring.
There are going to be all kinds of links below this episode for your book, for your YouTube page, so people can tune in, literally and figuratively, to everything you're doing, because I give it my full endorsement. I really do. You're very special, and what you're doing is energizing and healing and therapeutic in all the right ways.
Yeah, it's so rewarding. I mean, it's just so rewarding to find what music, what sounds fit each individual or fit as a group, and to watch the transformation that happens in people, whether it's being able to truly heal something like cancer, or to be able, if you're on the path and you're You're going to be passing, and you know that. It's not necessary that the bowls can heal everything, but they can make the space that you're in and help you accept whatever it is that's going on in your life so you can have a peaceful transition. So I've seen all of that, you know, and for people working for focus in their life and then for purpose and to express, as we talked about earlier, your unique vibrational signature. It helps to ground. And as my teacher used to say to me, take the question mark off your back. And it's like, what are you talking about? Well, there's a question mark there. And I think we all have some aspect of that. And music really helps us remove that. There's one of us. Get to it, express it. It's needed.
Oh, I just want to send you kisses and hugs. And thank you. This has been the Silver Disobedience Perception Dynamics podcast. I'm Dian Griesel, the host. I've been speaking with Jeralyn Glass. There are founder of Crystal Cadence. There are going to be all kinds of links below so you can tune in. You can find out about owning your own crystal healing glass, and you can follow her on YouTube and tune into any of those musical healing meditations. What a way to go to sleep. Wow. I'm going to do that tonight, probably tomorrow and the next night too. But we're going to be sleeping together now.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. Jeralyn, we're going to move over to the green room. I want to thank you all. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Please share this. Tell your friends about this because it's an episode that a lot of people would benefit from. Thank you. Hit subscribe and definitely tune into all of Jeralyn's pages. Okay, we are moving over to the green room. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.